You betrayed my trust. You sided with the enemy. And I have never been more prouder of you. Now let's get a fucking Uber and get to that HQ.
But sire, Uber has been known to be a service where they molest the riders.
Why do you think I tip so well?
Alright, here's the recording device. Remember to get Raptor to confess to kidnapping Horse.
Can you kidnap a horse? Thought that'd be horse snapping. Minion, what do you think?
What I think?
It doesn't matter. Anyway, Mannequin, thank you for helping me with this. I'm glad I thought of it. And I appreciate how you really went out on a limb for me. Get it? Because you have no fucking limbs. Seriously though, what is up with that?
Okay, you can go now. Like, get the fuck out. You should be used to women saying that to you by now.
Hey guys, well what's up? It's 2-Bit Jesus here, and as you can tell I'm in my magical review world now. Because I have, the magic 2-Bit powers. Anyway guys, today's a very special day because I'm going to be reviewing Donkey Kong 64, of course, for the Nintendo 64. Donkey Kong 64 is an adventure platformer published by Nintendo and developed by Rare. It was released in 1998 for the Nintendo 64. It's the first in the Donkey Kong series to feature 3D gameplay. Development began in 1997, and the majority of the DK64 team is made up of members from the Banjo-Kazooie team. DK64 was the top-selling game for Nintendo in the holiday season of 1999. However, with these successes, critics cited the similarity in gameplay and visuals to Rare's previous title, Banjo-Kazooie. Donkey Kong 64 is also the first game to require the expansion pack, an accessory that expanded the memory of the Nintendo 64. Nintendo and Rare wisely included this in the retail packaging of DK64. Well guys, that's it for these tidbits. Let's peel into this review. Donkey Kong 64 borrows heavily from the formula set by Mario 64. It's a 3D action platformer and one of the best of its era. The controls for the most part are smooth and responsive, however the camera is terrible and it can be a bit stiff and jarring. It gets stuck on walls, making it hard to see your character or to see where you're trying to jump to. And attempting to move the camera around is like driving a tank with busted treads. It just doesn't cooperate with you. Places where the gameplay does shine is in the variations and abilities with the different characters that you will play throughout the game. You start the game out with just Donkey Kong, while the other ape-napped Kongs, Diddy, Tiny, Lanky, and Chunky Kong all become available after you rescue them. Each of the 5 characters begin with basic abilities and receive additional unique abilities as the game progresses, including abilities needed to solve some puzzles. For example, Donkey Kong can smash dirt for banana coins, Chunky Kong can lift rocks, Tiny Kong can shrink and crawl through holes, Diddy Kong can fly, and Lanky Kong can float. The Kongs also have unique weapons and musical instruments. There are more special abilities than just the face buttons on the controller, so button combinations are needed to trigger some of these abilities. Some of these combinations trigger special viewpoints, such as different camera angles, which can sometimes help with the faulty camera, a first-person mode which helps your accuracy out quite a bit. Returning to the series is the ability to ride animals such as the rhino and the swordfish. All these features I feel really push the genre forward. Even with the terrible camera, the other parts of the gameplay help make it bearable. The levels are designed fairly well, with a mix of diverse worlds ranging from jungles, factories, and sunken ships. There's a lot to see and do in these levels, and all the levels are connected to an overworld, and you can move freely back and forth between them. Oh, before I forget, one last thing that I feel is a negative, but honestly is just my personal feeling, and not a slight against Donkey Kong 64, is the collecting. The gameplay is heavily based upon item collection, and each stage features several items for each Kong to collect. It's not mandatory to collect every single item, but it is required if you're aiming for 100% completion. All of the collectibles are of a certain color, and they can only be collected by a Kong whose color matches the color of the item. The most important items are golden bananas, obtainable by accomplishing certain tasks, but there are various other types of collectibles for each Kong to find, such as banana medals, banana bunch coins, blueprints, you get the point. Lots of stuff to collect. Each world has a certain number of items, often making use of each Kong's unique ability. While not all collectibles are needed like golden bananas, a sizable amount are required to progress through the game. This makes backtracking through levels very tedious. Thankfully, Rare implemented checkpoints in the form of numbered pads that allow you to fast travel through a level and the overworld. That said, if you're looking for a rigid grind in gameplay, you will love this game. But if you're just looking to enjoy the gameplay and story and aren't into searching for hours in the same level over and over again for a handful of items, you, like me, will hate this aspect of the game. With solid gameplay and level design, but tedious collecting and a terrible camera, give Donkey Kong 64's gameplay 2 bits. Out of 4. Donkey Kong 64, like all Nintendo 64 games released in North America, is cart-based, meaning the sound files had to be considerably compressed to fit into the cart's cramped memory. The compression, actually, like other games I've reviewed for the N64, isn't game-breaking, and actually isn't that noticeable most of the time unless you're keeping an ear out for it. The soundtrack is solid, especially that intro song. That intro song is awesome. I don't care who you are. I love that song. Now sure, the soundtrack is not as mesmerizing as Donkey Kong Country's, but it stays true to its roots while also creating new themes progressing the series forward. With high marks across the board, Donkey Kong 64's sound gets 3 bits. Out of 4.
Come on, Cranky, take it to the fridge. Walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells, grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells. Oh yeah, walnuts, peanuts, pineapple smells, grapes, melons, oranges, and coconut shells.
Donkey Kong 64 is a great looking game. Rare really knew how to get the absolute best out of the 64 when it came to visual presentation. The characters are nicely detailed and the worlds are deep and immersive. The story begins on the peaceful Donkey Kong Island. The Kremlin crew is shown sailing a fortified technological version of Crocodile Island to Donkey Kong's island. King K. Rool is planning on destroying the island using the Blast-O-Matic. It was designed by a weasel engineer named Snide, who switched sides after a paranoid King K. Rool kicked him out. Due to Snide's absence, critters are charged with operating the Blast-O-Matic and piloting the island, but they are shown to be quite incompetent, which causes the island to crash into a rock. The Blast-O-Matic is heavily damaged, and as a result, Crocodile Island ends up directly in front of Donkey Kong Island. So, King K. Rool orders 3 of his minions to steal Donkey Kong's banana hoard, which consists of 200 golden bananas. And they also imprison the other Kongs to buy time and distract Donkey Kong while the Kremlin crew repairs the damaged Blast-O-Matic. While all this is going on, Donkey Kong is in his treehouse working out while listening to the radio. A bird named Squawk suddenly appears in the house and tells Donkey Kong that all of his precious golden bananas are gone, and the other Kongs have vanished. DK then goes to Cranky's lab where Cranky offers homemade potions to give him and the other Kongs different abilities needed throughout the adventure. As Donkey Kong collects golden bananas, he eventually saves Diddy Kong in the Jungle Japes, Lanky and Tiny Kong in Angry Aztec, and Chunky Kong in the Frantic Factory. After the Kongs collect all the blueprints for Snide's Blast-O-Matic, they dismantle it. King K. Rool tries desperately to escape using his King Cruiser 2. The Kongs, however, use the boss key to finally unlock the cage and free K. Lumsy, who was imprisoned by King K. Rool for refusing to fight the Kongs. Lumsy starts to chase K. Rool's cruiser as it flies by Donkey Kong's island. During the chase, however, K. Lumsy accidentally trips over a rock and hits the cruiser, causing it to fall into the water. The Kongs then enter the King Cruiser to battle K. Rool in a 5-round boxing match. At the climax of this match, Funky Kong appears and launches a boot at K. Rool, while he is distracted by Candy Kong, who pretends to flirt with him. K. Rool is finally defeated by the Kongs, and peace is restored to Donkey Kong Island. Now, if you've collected everything in the game, you get a bonus ending with Cranky Kong giving out auditions to the various characters of Donkey Kong 64. It's a humorous clip, but honestly, this is a very cheap reward for an arduous task that is required to obtain it. Donkey Kong 64's plot is a short, straightforward story with lots of humor in between. It's obvious that the gameplay was the main focus, as the story and plot seem to take a backseat to everything else. With great-looking graphics combined with a simple plot and lots of laughs, Donkey Kong 64's presentation gets 3 bits.
Oh, banana.
Out of 4.
Okay.
Donkey Kong 64 is a revered title of the early 3D gaming era, but I don't feel it quite stacks up to the nostalgia and hype that precedes it. There's some serious flaws with this game, namely the god-awful camera and the tedious collecting you have to do throughout the game. These two things really brought the fun factor down for me. But that being said, when the camera was working, the gameplay was solid, and there's a lot of funny moments and laughs that I had throughout the game. And then lastly, the graphics are still great looking even after all these years. So my final verdict for Donkey Kong 64 is a must-play and own for the casual or collector of the Nintendo 64. Just make sure you have that expansion pack, because you're going to need it to play the game. Sorry. Whew. Excuse me. I stayed up like 5 nights to collect everything in this damn game so I could get that bonus ending. I think a nap's in order. Yeah, nap's in order. I'm going to sign off here, guys. As always, stay safe and play on.
They should have called it the Sith Engine! The Sith Engine!
No! What? Headless mannequin? Talking? How does that even work? You have no head. Yeah. I'm dreaming. Good night.
Two-Bit! There is no time! Now you must listen, and listen well. Play Satan has already left, and we must hurry. It was Raptor who trapped me in this form, and it was he that killed Two-Bit Judas.
Judas? Play Satan? They kinda sound familiar. You know, I know a crazed fan named Playstan.
You've had your memory stolen, and you have been mistreated by those sworn to protect you. But I have a gift that will help you defeat Raptor Jesus, and perhaps start to make things right once more.
Really? Raptor Jesus? President of MFers? You know, the organization that I work for, whose acronym stands for Messiahs for Everyone's Rights. No, I don't see Raptor doing this. He's a really nice guy, you know? Though, yet granted, he can be a dick. He can be a dick. And he's a bit of an overbearing douchebag who's obviously psychopathic, but you know oh shit, I see your point.
I used to be an MFer too. I was once chief chronicler as you are. I was betrayed by Raptor and trapped in this form when I discovered that he was planning on using the power of nostalgia to enslave people's minds. When I confronted him, he placed a curse on me that transformed me into the object you see before you. I sat, neglected in dusty corners, hiding my will from him and biding my time. Eventually I regained enough power to communicate with people, and I met a young man. The man was handsome and funny and had the facial hair of a goddess. I told him my story, and he swore to me that he would make Raptor pay for what he had done. He began working for Play Satan in order to get closer to Raptor, but he had to flee when he was found out by Minion, who, as we all know, is a double agent for Raptor. That man was Two-Bit Judas. Judas, always brash, went to the MFR HQ to plant a bomb in the office of Raptor to end his evil plans once and for all. But then, he never returned. Horse Jesus came to me and told me how Raptor had captured him, tortured him, and killed him. Then Horse also disappeared, and I knew the time had come. I have sent Play Satan to distract Raptor, so that I could do one last thing for you, my only begotten son.
This is about the point I usually wake up in a dream. god. Are you okay?
Goodbye, 2-Bit. Stay safe. And play on.
Don't worry, Mannequin. I know exactly what I have to do now.